Hey, what's going on, everyone? Hope y'all are doing well. Welcome back to another aerial effects video. In this video, I will be going over exactly how I was able to do 59.6% return in the month of September. And the greatest part about it is we still have a third of the month to go. We're only 3 weeks in. We still have about 10, 11 days left. And I'm very excited to finish out this month super strong. So I will be going over every single solitary trade within our VIP Discord community, every piece of analysis, every winner, every loser, full transparency, so that you guys can see exactly how I was able to do this. So hopefully you can learn from it and then apply it to your own trading as well. So the reason why I'm doing it is not only for educational purposes, but also because over the past few months, I have just seen a ridiculous amount of fake traders on social media, fake gurus, if you will, these people claiming to do hundreds of thousands or even millions in profit. And it's sort of comical because you're not fooling anyone. And it's sort of ridiculous how I see these people's entries. They're over leveraging, they don't even understand their own strategy, and they're just lying with their entries and lying with their analysis. So, in order to combat this crazed industry with fake people and scammers all over the place, I'm going to do a full audit, essentially, of my entire Discord community to show people what actual transparency looks like and what actual trading is. So it's not me sitting here trying to boast about my trades, it's providing you with a real audited track record of our VIP trades. And all of you VIP members who are currently a part of this, please attest to it. Call me out if I'm making this up. I want you all to be my witnesses here. But, it's just very frustrating how I see all the time on social media people posting all this fake profit. And it's absolutely ridiculous. The industry is filled with it, and Forex has just become a scammer's haven. So I wanted to provide a real track record, a real audit, and a real, actual transparent view of how we at Aerial Effects approach the markets, take trades, and send this stuff out to our VIP community every single solitary day. I did a video like this, I believe was in either June or July. It was a full audit of the month. And I think I'm going to continue to do this just to provide full transparency to allow you guys to really learn, but still see the trades I'm actually sending to my clients every single day. I don't think I did one for the month of August. I'll have to go back. It's been a really busy summer, but I'll have to go back and do something like that. So keep an eye out for future videos like this. Keep me accountable. We don't want to be like everyone else who fakes profits out there and who doesn't really know what in the world they're doing. So guys, we go over these setups on our daily market breakdown videos. This is a VIP exclusive video that we send out every day. VIP analysis, like these screenshots that we send out every single day. We also hold free live sessions. So these live sessions are actually free every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're unable to watch the live session, you are more than welcome to view the recording of this live session on the Trading Nut YouTube channel. So search Trading Nut on YouTube and you will be able to find that. I do the live sessions there as well. All right, guys, so let's just get right into it. I'm going to be going over every piece of analysis, calculating each and every percent return. I will not take into consideration the partial profits. The reason why is because it's going to take way too long to calculate exactly each percent return for every single, TP1, TP2, TP3 based upon the partials. So what I'm going to do to combat that is I'm only going to be counting the ones that hit overall take profit as my overall return. The ones that hit break even, obviously I will tell you if it hits break even, if we move it, but I will also say, we've taken partials here and it came down and hit break even. I will not count that partial profit as part of the overall return. All right, just so for full transparency, all VIP members, you can attest to all of this stuff. I did not delete anything in here. I don't even know how you could do that. We can see the date, and we can even see the date within the trade that was published here. So on TradingView, this was the date, this was the time. All right, so let's first start off by talking about the first one. Now, there are quite a bit of pieces of analysis, so sit back, take some notes. This is going to be a great video for those of you who want to learn even further. But for those who want to get an understanding as to sort of how we look at the markets and the transparency aspect behind our VIP community and what we teach our VIP clients to do every single day so that they can become independent from us and become consistently profitable traders, which we've had quite a few over the past few weeks have shifted into that funded trader status, which congrats, you know who you are. But I want to be able to provide that transparency. Anyways, NZD CAD, okay? So this was the trade idea that was sent out. This, like we said, just as called out on yesterday's daily market breakdown video. So this was the first. So yesterday, at this particular day, was August 31st or something. I'm not going to be breaking down August, but I think that was what we were talking about somewhere up in here. All right. So let's go to NZD CAD and let's talk about it. So I'm not going to do a full top-down analysis on it. I'm going to save that for my live session just because it would take me hours and hours and hours to do this video. I'm just going to be going over the analysis for the particular trade. I'm not going to be talking about all the pieces of analysis everywhere else. All right, just for the sake of time, let's just go over each individual trade and go from there. All right, so higher time frame, we are in a downtrend, but I wanted this counter trend pushed back up to the upside into our prior level of supply to the left at 0.8093. So we came into a level of demand. We can see we pushed up, made that high, reacted from supply, but failed to generate a lower low. And we made a higher high after that, breaking counter trend structure, also leaving buy side liquidity right here. We generated more sell side liquidity, swept that liquidity swiftly, sell to buy into that demand level, had a beautiful entry, pushed back to the upside, broke the counter trend structure again. But obviously we came back down. We moved stop to break even because we swept buy side liquidity and we had a sharp reaction. And we also broke counter trend structure as well. So I moved stop to break even, took some partials, but in this case, since I'm not counting partials, I'm going to say we didn't make any return, so plus 0% on this trade. Going back, let's go to the next one. So this one is AUD NZD. So we had a sell entry right in here, and I said, all you need to do is really keep up with the content. Boom, you're making money right beside me. And that's really true, guys. If you are part of the VIP community, all you have to do is just pay attention to what we're sending out. Pay attention to live sessions, the daily market breakdown videos, all the pieces of analysis. If you can follow it, you are a profitable trader alongside me, even if you just follow the content. Obviously, we want you guys to learn so you can become independent and not dependent upon us. But even if you just follow the content, you are going to make money guaranteed. I guarantee you that. Okay. So this one obviously was called out in the daily market breakdown video as well. And this one as well. I discussed another one. So the first couple of them, you can see that they had already had entries. Most of them, I would say 90 to 95% of all the rest are based upon the before picture. So something like this, right? The before picture. And this is really where the transparency comes into. I don't know how I can lie if it's not in hindsight, right? So I'm giving you the before piece of analysis that was sent on September 1st, right? And I'm going to go over the after now so you can see how it played out and stuff. It's just these were talked about on the daily market breakdown videos, and I didn't send them as screenshots within the Discord. But obviously, VIP, you had access to that, and you would have known to be placing entries at those levels. So anyways, AUD NZD, let's just go to it. So higher time frame, we are in a bullish uptrend, as we can see. Very higher time frame. Let me just go to the higher time frame here. Bullish uptrend, right? But the trade in particular was on the lower time frame counter trend. All right, so in here was the trade. We had descending liquidity that was run buy to sell. We failed to generate a higher high with this push, and we ended up making a lower low. So now we're in this pullback phase. So even though we're higher time frame bullish, we can say that we are now counter trend bearish, or higher time frame we're pulling back. We actually came up into a level of supply that swept liquidity. So a lot of confluence surrounding that, but where the actual entry was, and I did not see this entry actually. This is where we should have gotten in, but I didn't see it in time. So we ended up rolling over, creating more supply. We scale in here. We can see the counter trend move. See high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low. Failed to make a higher high, lower low. Pull back short. So these two levels of supply are definitely very valid. So I said these two levels, as we can see from the screenshot right here. Boom and boom. So going back to that, we can see that it played out very nicely. However, we ended up coming back up after a big push into profit. We took some partials for both of these positions. These were on half risk apiece. I treat two positions on the same pair as half risk each, or really as 1% risk in total. So I split it up half risk and half risk. My overall take profit was our higher time frame demand at 1.107450. We can see we never reached that level. We almost did, but we ended up pushing back to the upside. So partials were taken, stops to break even, but since I'm not counting partials, we'll just say 0% return there. All right, next is Great British Pound, Canadian Dollar. This was the piece of analysis. This was talked about prior to the entry. So GBP CAD, you can see all the way over here. We just go to the hourly time frame, zoom out. Perfect. Okay, so higher time frame, we're in a downtrend. Our entry was right in here. We had a 1 to 3.66 risk to reward. So higher time frame, we can see that we swept descending liquidity, huge buy to sell, retracement, lower low. Okay, so that prompted the pullback for another lower low because that's just following structure. We mitigated a level of supply on a lower time frame. So we can see the counter trend move, high, low, failed to make a higher high, lower low. This turns supply. So that demand that we reacted off of, this was prior demand. When we made the higher high, we pulled back into this demand, but failed to generate another higher high afterwards. So that demand flipped to supply, it was invalidated. So in the process, we formed liquidity, descending liquidity there, and had a huge buy to sell. And this sponsored move, and you can see it on the 3-hour time frame, it looks very pretty. We will talk about this in a little while, this particular candle here. But nonetheless, that was the trade, and we were in great profit all the way down, and we are still holding this. We haven't reached 1.5 yet. All right, so still holding this position in profit. Stops are at break even. Next, where are we at? There we go. Okay, so let's see, CAD Swiss franc. Okay, so this was the piece of analysis. Again, this was talked about on a daily market breakdown video. So we had already had the entry there, had a little bit of drawdown more than expected on this particular trade. We can see that higher time frame, we are in our pullback phase. You know, we are lower time frame bullish here. So making higher highs, higher lows. This was simply just a lower time frame trade. So we can scale in. Let's go to the 30-minute time frame. Actually, let's go to the 15-minute. Actually, no, let's keep it 30. That's fine. We can see here that when we made the higher high, we made a higher low, then another higher high. So we expect a higher low. But what's going on within this pullback? Well, we create this retail head and shoulders. Shoulder, head, shoulder. In the process, we sweep the lows, right? Because retail traders were trading with this trend line, maybe 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touches, or they were waiting for the break below the neckline to take a trade short. But in all reality, we hit demand, we follow structure, boom, right back to the upside, break counter trend. We also, in the process of sweeping this liquidity, generate more right in there. Okay, so it's all about liquidity, it's all about volume, it's all about mitigating orders and making the market efficient and continuing with each level. So we continue higher high, we pulled back but failed to come into our 2 levels. We had equal lows, we had ascending liquidity, also forming another piece of retail head and shoulders, almost like a double head and shoulder right there. So we sold off, our stop was below this low here, so we didn't hit stop, had a little bit of drawdown, but nonetheless swept liquidity, pushed right back to the upside, and now we were in major profit, and we did hit take profit on this trade. This one was for a 1 to 2, and this one was for a 1 to 2.86. Obviously, these two were at the same time, so we had half risk and half risk here, so that was 1.02% and then 1.43% for that one. So a little over almost 2.5% on these 2 trades alone total. All right, next one. And we're going to go through these in order. I know I have some other trades here, and I'll go over them when I get to them. Alrighty, next one. So this one was NZD CAD. So this was simply just the retest of where we initially broke out before. So this particular trade was right in here. I think it was 15-minute time frame, something like that. So remember when we had this entry, we made that higher high. So now for potential re-entry, since we haven't hit our overall supply level in here, what we did do was we looked at the counter trend as we were taking liquidity. So we had this here, pullback, pullback, pullback. Here, if we were going to continue with the trend, we would have went like that, respected this supply zone, right? But we broke through supply zone. So now that acts as demand. We can see we had the reaction here off of that demand, but then we just rolled back over to the downside. So in this case, this was a loser of a trade. All right, so we lost 1% on that trade. All right, but we broke even on this one here because we had broken structure back to the upside. So we did not lose in this trade. We ended up making a little bit, but since we were in this, you know, we took a little bit of a loss with this particular buy trade there. All right, now we move on. Next one. We went over that one. Okay, this is GBP Swiss franc. And I think this one was actually a loser as well, to be quite honest with you. Where was that one? GBP Swiss franc. Yes, it was right here. So I know I'm zoomed out, okay, but just bear with me. I want to show you the bigger picture. Let's just maybe go to the 1 hour so we can see. So obviously we're in a downtrend. Here we generate equal highs. We take the equal highs, we push down, we react off this demand in here. We push up, we fail to make a higher high, and we make a lower low. So now this becomes our supply. So we're generating a lot of liquidity prior to coming up into the supply level. Equal highs, descending liquidity. We have that high here. So what happened was when we pushed to the downside, we created equal lows and we swept those equal lows. We pushed back to the upside, generating more liquidity. So I thought, okay, well, maybe we can pull back to where we swept liquidity in here, take a long position, counter trend up into the supply zone in which we would sell it from there, 1.1440. All right, so going down to the 15-minute time frame, we can see here that where we swept liquidity, we had our last sell to buy. We also had a lot of imbalance in here as well. So we came down, created equal lows, created more equal lows in here, 1, 2, 3, 4 touches, and then swept the liquidity, but we ended up hitting stop and continuing with the structure. So we ended up never pulling back up into that supply, and that's okay. You know, we just have to understand that, use good risk management, and know that no matter how good the setup is, you sometimes still will lose, even though we were hoping to get back up into here, right? So really the most highly probable setup would have been that sell if we would have gotten up into there, because then we would have been with the trend. This was a counter trend trade, so we just have to be careful in regards to those. All right, next one is GBP CAD. So this was a playoff of that huge 3-hour buy to sell candle that I just spoke of before. So remember when we were talking about that 3-hour candle, or really it was this right here, you know, just this huge influx of orders, right, to sweep descending liquidity and then come into our overall supply zone to mitigate that level in which we sold it from. And we pretty much had a wick entry on the higher time frame. So buy to sell, and then we create really just this, let me go back out to it, this huge sponsored candle, buy to sell. So in the lower time frame, I had 2 levels of supply. So I wanted the price to pull back up into that level, and we only went to the first one, lower time frame. But it was pretty much the open of this sponsored move, so it was just the mitigation. Okay, so we had a beautiful trade from it, and we can see that we are still in profit on it. Stops are at break even, and you know we were up a really good amount on GBP CAD. So that was that trade, and we swept liquidity here, and we'll talk about this one in a little bit. Next one is in addition to CAD Swiss franc. Okay, so this was the piece of analysis on the 15-minute time frame. We can see September 1st still. And let's go back. What is this? CAD Swiss franc. There we go. So on the 15-minute, what we'll notice is that once we swept liquidity, remember we swept liquidity coming into our sponsored move in which we bought it from these 2 levels, right? But in the process of doing so, we sold to buy, but we failed to generate a lower low, right? We did not make that lower low in this counter trend, right? We didn't do that. We actually stopped, sold to buy, repriced, and continued, breaking the counter trend structure. So now this acts as our demand, that flip from supply to demand. What this also is a fake out of the retail support. We can see there's relatively equal lows here. Support, people are thinking, okay, retail traders break, retest of this same level, sell off, nope, right back to the upside because they don't understand institutional concepts. This is why retail loses. Okay, so when we made that higher high, I simply just pulled back into this 15-minute level and boom, right back to the upside. And eventually, we came back up and hit our take profit there for a 1 to 5.5 risk to rewards. That was a phenomenal trade taken with everyone. Next one. And that was just I just said the update. That was nice reaction, beautiful. EU. So this was EU shorts on the 20-minute time frame. And this is why when people ask me, what time frame do you trade? I trade every time frame. I trade the time frame that looks the best, that provides the setup. Okay? Because we have to understand the markets are fractal. So if you say you only trade the hourly time frame, you don't know what you're doing. You really don't. Because the market and time frames are just zoomed in and zoomed out versions of the exact same thing. It's just pieces of art looking in or looking out at it. Okay? We just have to zoom in and zoom out to find what looks the prettiest and what levels to play off of. Okay, so that was EUR USD. And now let's go to the, I think it's over here. Yeah, beautiful. So 15-minute, 20-minute, whatever, it looks the exact same. It's the concepts that matter, right? So we were in a massive downtrend, lower low, lower high, looking for lower lows. We had equal lows right in here, just about. We actually created more equal lows, I think, right over, oops, right in here. Yeah, so we had that sell side liquidity that we wanted to come into. Okay, so when we create liquidity to the downside, we pull back up into a level of supply, and now that gives us more conviction that we're actually going to go short to attack that liquidity sell side, right? So what we did do was we swept buy side liquidity, huge buy to sell. We pulled back, but did not make a higher high in this sequence, right? We did not form a higher high. We stopped and made a lower low. So now this demand that we react from turns to supply. So that becomes that level of interest after sweeping liquidity. So we pulled back up into that level, had a tiny bit of drawdown, but nonetheless rolled back over. Our overall target was 0.98. I think if you see in this picture there, we can see that target 98. We only came to 9.9. We swept the liquidity down in here as well. But we did take partials when we made that lower low, and we moved stop to break even because we thought we may fill the gap and then continue long, which we actually did. So I'm not going to count this as a win, but I will say that we did move stop to break even, take partials. Alrighty, next one, Euro CAD. Okay, beautiful. This is the Euro CAD analysis, 15-minute time frame, September 1st. Euro CAD. Okay, let's go into here. So the reasoning behind this particular setup, and I think it was, yes, it was here. Okay, the reasoning behind this is, first and foremost, let's look to the left really fast. Let's just zoom out. Okay, what do we notice about this? We notice that every time we see these huge pushes up, right, it's liquidity runs. It's structure. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, looking for a lower low, right? And that's exactly what we got. Well, actually, we didn't. We ended up breaking structure, but I'll go over that in a minute. Anyways, there was a lower time frame level of supply in here that we came into, sweeping descending liquidity, buy to sell. In the process, this creates your supply or your sponsored move. We make a lower low, we generate liquidity in the process, generate liquidity so we can go run liquidity. You run the liquidity, banks do that so they can free it up. How are they going to place all their hundreds of thousands or millions of standard lots at that exact position and price? They can't do that if there's not enough liquidity. So they have to take retail trader liquidity. That's why you retail traders lose, because they're attacking your liquidity. So if you've ever said something like, oh, well, they hit my stop loss to the pip and they moved away, it's like they're attacking my stop loss and only my stop loss. Well, yeah, essentially they are, but they're attacking a group of stop losses. You and 100,000 other people, whatever, probably have the same stops. So they're going to look to attack that liquidity. So they come up, sweep it, boom, buy to sell, come up into that lower time frame supply, mitigate that sponsored move, and continue with the overall structure. Again, create more liquidity. One touch, 2 and 3, equal highs, push up, free up liquidity, mitigate, move away from it. So that was our entry. 15-minute time frame. What we wanted to do was pull back up into this huge buy to sell and also this little region of price. Why is that important? Counter trend, high, low, high, low, high, low, fail to make a higher high, lower low. This is our supply in the middle of this sponsored candle. That swept liquidity coming into that sponsored move to the left. So we wait and we generate more liquidity. Boom in here. Boom in here. And we actually had a lower time frame trade. I'll talk about that later. But we ended up coming back up, creating another piece or another high right there before falling. So more liquidity, another high right there. And then finally we run it. Stop loss was above this high, as we can see. So we did not hit stop loss. We came close. We did. It was a very volatile move. I guess they had to mitigate something at the very top. But anyways, we did not come above it. Why would they not come above this level? If they're not going to break structure, obviously, they're not going to come above this level because they're selling right here. They're placing their shorts. That's why the market shifted, right? So they bought the market just to sell it because they sweep liquidity. Now they can enter their sells at a better price. But now they have to come back up to mitigate their orders in here, meaning to break even on their buys because they're still in buys. If they're down here, they're in drawdown on their buys. They have to come up and mitigate, right? So we push back up into here to mitigate, and then we fall. So what we did do afterwards was we fell, and then we failed to generate a higher high with this sort of pullback that we had, and we made a lower low. So that's why, I'll talk about this entry in a little bit, but that was the entry there. Let's see what else. Euro CAD, that was just a higher time frame perspective. NZD CHF. So NZD Swiss franc. NZD Swiss franc. Okay, so I will be talking about multiple different positions. I'll be talking about one here. I'll be talking about one here. And then I'll talk about one here. The first one was a winner. The second one was a loser, and the third one was a winner. But we'll go over the loser now because that's what's up first. So higher time frame. Let's just call it bearish. I'm not going to get into the whole structure. We had a lower low, pull back, lower high. We broke and made a lower low compared to this low. So now we're overall bearish again. Okay, we pulled back up into a level of supply. Right, that's why we tapped into our first position there. We came back up, and since we made a lower low counter trend, I figured we were not going to come above this high, which we didn't. We stopped, swept this high here. We broke the counter trend. Boom, boom, boom. Generated liquidity, and then boom, lower low. Closed below the counter trend. So this acted as that liquidity to be taken when we have a huge buy to sell from it to mitigate this supply in here, filling up imbalance. In this case, we didn't do that. We came up a little bit higher, and we actually tapped into our secondary level, which I'll go over in a little bit. But this one was a loser. It was going to be a nice one to 6.27, but we ended up catching a nice one to 6.7 anyways. So none was lost, just a little bit, but keep going here. Let's see, CAD Swiss franc. This was just the reaction that we had from that level. All right, let's keep going. AUD NZD. Okay, cool. Going back to that same pair before. So we can have multiple entries on these pairs, right? Just different setups. But we have to treat each trade as an individual, right? Each trade has its own confluences. So remember, we were in these two levels here. What we did do is after the reaction of this supply level, the mitigation, we pushed down, we reacted off this demand, but failed to make a higher high in this sequence, right? We made a lower low, obviously, because lower low, lower high, lower low. That's what we were expecting. So that becomes that flip from demand to supply. So we entered here, stop loss was above here. The reason why is because since this is the high that created this low, this is just intermediate structure, intermediate supply. That would be your entry point, but the stop had to go above here because technically we could run this high and still maintain our bearish structure. Obviously lower low, lower high, lower low. So you get what I'm saying. That's exactly what happens. We have to be smart with it. Anyways, a little bit of drawdown, more than expected, but nonetheless push back to the downside. Once we broke the counter trend, took partials, move stop to break even, boom, another winning trade, but again, not counting partials as winners. So we'll just say 0%. Okay, because actually, well, because once it came back up, we just rallied back to the upside and we never came down into overall take profit. But anyways, continuing here. Okay, so that was AUD NZD, AUD CAD. So this was talked about, I believe, in August, late August. It was the prior Friday, because I said all four of our entries on AUD CAD are paying. Top two entries were from Friday. Bottom two entries were from the beginning of the week. So this was from the beginning of that particular week. This was from that past Friday. So this was in late August. But I'll still go over it really fast. I think it's really good value. Let's go to the 1 hour and let's zoom all the way out. So higher time frame. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. So essentially, what's going on in here? We came into a lower time frame level of supply, buy to sell, sweeping, ascending liquidity, creating that sponsored move, lower low. We come back up, generate more liquidity, sell side, trend line, retail loses. When we buy up, take their stops above the trend line. Come back up, huge buy to sell, mitigate that supply and sponsored move. Then we make another lower low. So what do we expect? An overall pullback up into this same level. See, we're just following the mitigation trend. It's the same thing every time, guys. Forex trading is supposed to be boring. It's supposed to be repetitive. It's the exact same thing. It's not supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be boring and the exact same thing. But, making money is fun. So I guess you could say it's fun. So anyways, imbalance between this wick and this wick. That's exactly why we came back up into it. Not to mention the fact that this is a sponsored move, buy to sell. But anyways, lower time frame. What happened in here was the distribution within that level of imbalance and that supply because we're overall bearish, higher time frame. So this was just the overall pullback, lower high. We're trying now to make an overall lower low in the market, which we're looking at doing. So what happened was we distributed and we broke structure, right? We fulfilled the distribution, we pushed down. So when we started to pull back, we generated equal lows. So that's the draw on liquidity. Gives me more conviction that when we pull back, we're going to go short to attack that liquidity. That's what I mean by draw on liquidity. So our first position was taken upon the start of the distribution. And the second position right up here was taken upon this 4-hour supply level. Right in there. Last supply level before the major sell-off that broke structure. So boom, boom, perfect entry, 1 to 6, 1 to 4.5. and we are still holding these trades in good profit at the moment. Let's see, 1 hour time frame. Now, when we push back up into these levels, the next week when we opened right here. That was Sunday's open. We filled the gap, pushed back down a little bit, pushed back up, and that was our re-entries. So this was the last buy to sell, and then the lower time frame last buy to sell. So 2 more additional entries, half risk apiece, obviously, and then, well, we moved to the downside. We're in profit, very good profit. So those are those 4 trades, and we still have others to talk about here later on. Let's see, NZD CAD. This was, okay, so this was we adapted to the market. And this is going to be very important as I go over this pair. We adapted to our loss. This is something that not a lot of traders can actually do. They lose, but they still look at the market, at what it's actually telling them to do, and they don't get scared. They don't get nervous. Because of the fact that we pushed down and hit our stop loss within this entry here, and we hit break even on this trade. Remember, I talked about those 2 before. I said, okay, well, I lost on one of them, broke even on one of them. I'm not going to go and pout and sit in the corner. What is the market telling me? What can I do to maybe potentially get back in? It's not revenge trading, but it's because I'm basing my trade off of all the confluences I need. I'm trading it as an individual trade. But if there are confluences and my rules are met for this particular re-entry, then I'm going to do it. So higher time frame again. We were wanting that overall pullback, right? We never got it. We just continued with the lower time frame structure, as we can see here, right? So we simply pulled back, and now we're looking to go short. So we ended up going short. So where was the re-entry? Why did I look for it? Well, because of the fact that we took equal highs and we made a strong move down. We broke to the downside. We were making higher highs, higher lows with this pullback, but then we made a lower low. So I said, okay, well, where's the counter trend here? Well, we had the high, we had the low, we failed to generate a higher high, right? That's what we were looking for in here, that higher high to be formed, to go long. We failed to do that, and we made a lower low. So this flips to supply, stop above this high. Remember, we talked about that before on AUD NZD, why we do that, right? Because this is the high that created that low. So that's where we need to put stop. So, we had a 36 pip stop loss. Don't worry about the pips and stop, guys. I don't care if it's 1 pip stop or a 500 pip stop. As long as you have a proper risk to reward, the trade is still good. In this case, this is a 1 to 6. So 36 pip stop, many people are like, I don't want that big of a stop. I want a 10 pip stop. Don't go based off of how many pips you want. 10 pip stop would be right there. So you would have lost this trade. So don't just say, 10 pip stop loss every time. That's ridiculous. Put your stop loss at an appropriate position and see what kind of return you get. Then base it upon the risk to reward that it is. In this case, it's a 1 to 6. So 36 pip stop, cool. I'll take it. 6% return. So we had the nice reaction here. We closed in a little bit of profit that Friday. We opened on Sunday, gapped, filled the gap, and continued short. All right, I'll go over these entries here in a little bit. But very good trade there. Next one. That was NZD CAD. We talked about that. CAD Swiss francs. This is our 4th entry on CAD Swiss franc. So let's go back to it and understand why we were looking to enter the 4th time. So remember, go back here. Remember when we had these 2 positions. Then we had our re-entry in the lower time frame. Then, we had the entry, and then we're in some profit. So I was like, okay, well, this huge sell to buy that mitigated occurred at 9 a.m. Eastern time. That's New York session open. So we probably have to come back down, mitigate imbalance, and mitigate that pre-New York session candle, that sell to buy, before continuing on. Boom, we did right there, chopped around a little bit of drawdown, boom, right back to the upside, swiftly hit our take profit at 0.75. All right, so that was our 4th entry. So we had a total of 4, 2.05 and 2.86. These were half risk apiece. This was each on full risk because these were separate trades. 5.5 and then 1.86. So all in all, 5.5, 1.86. That's what, like 7.3. And then half of this, I think it was 2.5, 7.3 and 2.5, close to 10% just on these 4 trades there. All right, so very, very good. Next, CAD JPY, very similar to CAD CHF as we just saw, but this is CAD J. Now let's go take a look at what's going on. CAD J actually did not hit. It didn't even hit entry. So the reason why I was looking at it is because we're higher time frame bullish. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. This is just a liquidity run. And then we had our higher high. We're just bullish, right? So while we were trading in here, we were looking to attack this high and make a new high, right? So we know where we're headed. We know the objective. So on a lower time frame, we had this level, higher high, higher low, higher high, pull back, higher low into demand, sweep liquidity, sell to buy, higher high, pulling back. This was our demand that was of the reaction after we swept liquidity coming into this demand. So it's just the mitigation train essentially. So we generate more liquidity in here, have a nice sell into that level. You could have bought it from there, but we didn't see this in time. This was 4 in the morning Eastern time. This is London session. This is when we're sleeping. So anyways, we pushed back, had the reaction, boom, had the pull back. We can see when we sold to buy, reprice, continue. We never made the lower low. So this becomes that valid region of demand, and we can just see that we did not come into it. Disregard this big blue box here. This is for another trade later on. It's just this little one right there. But you could have taken a trade. If this pulled back into really just this overall level, the sponsored move, that's fine. But this is just a smaller little demand within this overall sponsored move. But anyways, we can see we never got the pullback and we just continued long. All right, now we didn't even get it here. We almost did. We're coming into it, and we'll talk about that later. So next one, AUD CAD. So remember we had 4 positions. Now we're looking for our 5th. Okay, so let's go do AUD CAD now. All right, cool. So within AUD CAD, remember we had the reaction from the distribution. Then we had the counter trend break of structure. We pulled back into the last points of return. Again, created equal lows, pushed up, pushed back down, generated another lower low. So essentially, lower low, lower high, lower low. Where do we want to pull back up into? Well, supply. Boom. High, low, failed to make a higher high, lower low. This is our supply. We need to pull back and mitigate that level, our buying volume in there. So boom, this was a 1 to 6.5, and we're still in profit here at the current moment. All right, so really good entry there. Obviously, we're taking partials throughout, right? We're taking partials throughout, securing partials, moving stops to break even. This is at break even now. But I'm not going to count it right now because it would just take way too long to understand exactly at what price point we took partials, then at what volume did we continue to go in partials, and where we're at now. It would just take way too much calculation. So for the sake of that time, I'm not going to count it. But to combat that, I'm not counting the profit that I made in terms of taking profit or partials that came back up to break even. I'm just counting a 0% return to make it fair and to make it transparent. This was just an update for CAD Swiss franc for that 4th entry. In the market breakdown video, Tom, very good trader, is a part of us helping us send setups to the community. Had a very nice US 30 play. He does trade US 30, so indice traders out there, you got Tom on your side. Cool. Entry for in profit. Cool, cool, cool. Tom's sending out more stuff. Awesome. Back to me again. Euro JPY. Okay, so this was the entry, and now we're looking for the reasoning behind it. 4-hour time frame. So we are extremely bearish here. Higher time frame, we're bullish. Can't get us wrong. Higher high, higher low. Higher high, higher low. We have equal highs. So that's what we're looking to attack now, which we came into. So lower time frame, we were in this counter trend down move, right? Lower low was made. We pulled back up. We can see that we had the huge buy to sell, creating the imbalance. Then made the lower low. This buy to sell came into this supply on a lower time frame, which came into this supply on a lower time frame, filling imbalance every time. So I figured, well, lower low, pull back, lower high. We came up, filled the imbalance, huge buy to sell, great entry. And then, we were like, you know what, broke the counter trend structure, high, low, lower low. So we're like, you know what, stops to break even, take some partials, good thing because we rallied back to the upside and eventually continued with the overall higher time frame structure. So in this case, we'll just say 0%. This one right here, Euro NZD. So this one was talked about at this particular day. Aiden shared this out last week. So I guess this is on the 5th of September. So the prior weeks to the end of August. So Euro NZD, let's go to that. And that was right in here. Perfect. So what do we do in higher time frame? Well, counter trend, we're bullish, right? We've made a high. We failed to make a lower low, and we made a higher high. We've broken the counter trend structure. We want to come back up into at least this level of supply. That was our last point of return, and we're in that now. But for the sake of this particular trade, let's talk about what's going on now. So higher high, higher low, higher high. Okay. Within this little structure in here, we had equal lows, sell, 4 in the morning, London open. Right, attract the breakout traders, nope, right back to the upside. What's interesting about our particular level is that on a lower time frame, as you can see, traders are going like this, low, high, low, high, low. They're looking at this as a break and retest. So retest low, trying to short off. Nope, right back to the upside and take their stops. So that becomes this intermediate level of demand, right? So now what we do is we wait for that demand to be mitigated. This was not mitigated right away. And usually it's not because it wants to generate liquidity. Remember, when we create a level, usually it comes down, does not mitigate, and then eventually it comes down into it, having that overall pullback and sweeping the liquidity that is created in the process. So that's exactly what we do. We sweep ascending liquidity, 1, 2, 3 touches. People are buying off the trend line. So when price comes all the way back down, boom, mitigate, and then right back up into profit. We also can see that this is a retail skewed head and shoulders pattern. People are selling below the neckline. Nope, right back to the upside. Retail loses yet again. But we get our entry there, and we can see the reaction, the counter trend break, chop, 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 another sell to buy coming into the imbalance that was formed when we originally entered. So that could have been another entry. This one, higher high, higher low, that could have been a third entry there. I just didn't catch that one. All right, so this one hit overall take profits last week, and we can see this one was for 1 to 7 risk to reward. All right, so 7% return there. Was Euro AUD. Discussed this was Euro USD, so we had that entry, talked about that. So that was just the update with that. And then NZD CHF. For our first entry on NZD CHF hit on August 25th. The second entry hit last Friday. Don't forget about these levels. As long as you keep watching our vids, you will make money. It's that simple, and it really is, guys. We give this out every single day, and I'm going through every single trade, so there's no way I can actually lie. I just want full transparency with everyone to prove that, we are profitable traders, and we can help you get to where you need to be. It's just being able to invest in that education that's setting you back. If you can invest in your education, you need to find a way to do that, because if you don't get the help you need, you're going to be stuck in the same cycle of continuously losing money. And I promise you, you're going to want to be getting on a winning team, and we can definitely be that team for you. So continuing here, NZD Swiss franc, 2 levels of interest. Talked about this that in late August. So the analysis was in late August. Everyone in VIP, you know what I'm talking about here. NZD Swiss franc, let's do it. So remember when we talked about the overall structure, right? Pullback, broken, lower low was formed. So this overall pullback was now broken. We've made a lower low. Okay, so when we made the actual lower low, closing below higher time frame structure, we can see in here that we were making higher highs, higher lows. We came up, made a higher high, made a higher low, but failed to make a higher high. We didn't do that. We ended up stopping and making a lower low. That's what broke this overall pullback higher time frame. And now we're going short. You can see the structure here. It's not that difficult to see that. Okay, so what we do, equal highs. Let me go to the 15-minute. I think that's where it looks pretty. See, this is why the 30-minute was the same level. Even if you look at the 30-minute, there was a wick. You still would have entered at the same level. But I'm on the 15-minute. It just shows a better picture of it. That's why I don't trade specific time frames. I trade every time frame. I just want to see what's pretty. Okay, so everyone who keeps asking me what time frame I trade, stop, please. Just don't ask me that anymore. Counter trend. Why did we stop here? Well, we ended up failing to make a higher high. I did not sell this because, well, obviously we were still bullish at the time. So we ended up reacting off the demand. The demand failed because we never made a higher high. We ended up making a lower low. This now becomes that supply, the valid supply. So if you guys are trading and you guys are getting hit on your stop losses trying to trade supply and demand, it's because you're trading invalid levels. You don't know what the actual supply and demand levels are. If you do, you're going to be winning trades left and right. Not all of them, because you're never going to be 100%. Neither am I. No one is, but you'll have a higher probability chance of being more successful. Counter trend, high, low, high, low, high, low. Failed to make the higher high, lower low. This was just that last pullback. So that's probably why we came back up into it. Mitigated, swept liquidity, created this huge buy to sell. Where is the counter trend? Buy to sell, failed to generate a higher high, lower low. So this is just the lower time frame level of supply. All right. So now we made the overall lower low. We pulled back, but didn't come into it. Okay, so we make a lower low again. This is still the valid supply. So this would act as liquidity. And what have we been saying for the past hour that we've been on here, like 30 minutes, whatever? We build liquidity prior to coming up into levels. Happens all the time. It just gives us conviction that the trade is actually valid, right? We knew that to begin with, just based upon confluence. But anyways, we build liquidity here, equal highs. We rallied again, pushed back to the upside, got the first entry, just missed the second one. but we finally got into it over there, which I'll show you in a second. But had that beautiful reaction, pretty much wick entry, pushed all the way to the downside, right? 5.9 was the overall take profit, and it just missed the take profit. I was very upset. But we did take a majority of the position. I think I took like 75% off right when it hit this previous low here. So 591 or 592, I forget exactly what price. But I don't care. I made money on this trade. I made more than I thought I was going to when we stopped. But stopped to break even. We came back up, just missed break even, pushed back to the downside. Remember, we created those equal highs, broke the counter trend, pulled back. I thought that would have been a beautiful trade. In all reality, the confluences were there. It just didn't win. And that's okay. Sometimes that happens sometimes, right? So we did hit out break even on this trade. We make about 3/4 of what we were supposed to make based upon, because of the fact we stopped and we took most of the partials off here. So 3.67%, we probably made about like 3%. So anyways, we lost this 1% here. We pushed back up, got the wick entry on the second position, and we fell all the way to the downside, hitting our overall take profit for a 1 to 5.6. And this one did hit take profit. All right, next one. We talked about that one. It was Friday. Here we go. NZD CAD. Oh, this was just the update. So we, kind of chopped around our 2 entries there. Now we're in profit. Same with AUD CAD. Yep, this is an update there with that position I just talked about. Let's see. NZD CAD, another one that I talked about earlier. Remember, we placed our stop above the high where you're supposed to. That's why we had a little bit of drawdown, but still didn't hit it. That's why, proper, stop loss and take profit placements are just as important as your entries, guys. So beautiful, beautiful entry. And then we continue. Smart Money Sundays. Thompson on a YouTube video out. Okay, the next one on September 6th. So I believe Aiden sent this one out. Aussie dollar hit take profit very swiftly. He talked about this in the breakdown video, Smart Money Sundays video. I believe it's right there. So we talked about that one. Let's go to it really fast. AUD USD, beautiful trade. So we were in a higher time frame downtrend, right? Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. I don't think I got into that one then because I didn't have the analysis. But anyways, lower low, we're just sequencing our lower lows and lower highs. So this is all lower time frame structure. Obviously, if we didn't see this, we wouldn't have known that we were going to come back up, right? But we still hit take profit anyway, so I don't really care. Going into AUD USD again. Oops, get out of bar replay. Simply put, we swept liquidity on Friday. Beautiful buy side liquidity at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. This is the end of London session and the beginning of New York, relatively. Then we had the rally creating equal lows. Conviction, conviction, conviction for shorts, because this is the draw on liquidity. We pull back up on Sunday, Monday, and then we mitigate. Beautiful wick entry, filling the imbalance to the T, pushing down. I don't know why he had his take profit there, but I don't care. 2.83% is what we made there. So beautiful trade. Next one. AUD, this was the trade that we did lose, I think, because this is the playoff of the original one. And going back down to the 15-minute, I want to show you why this was also a valid region. So the 1 hour provided the imbalance, but the 15-minute provided the flip from demand to supply. Let's look at the counter trend. High, low, high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low. Reaction from this demand, right? This demand in there. Reaction failed to make the higher high, lower low. So that became our supply zone, which is exactly why we had that beautiful entry where we did, right, with the imbalances, where that supply started. Right, so now the new position was that we pulled back, we made a lower low, but what happened? The counter trend again, boom, 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 demand in there, higher high, higher low, reaction off the demand, but we failed to make a higher high as expected because we mitigated that, we made a lower low. So that's what I wanted to pull back up into this new supply now because the demand was invalidated. Now it's flipped from demand to supply. So I wanted to go short at 6,790, which is that cycle level. So if I zoom out, we came all the way back up. It had a reaction from it, but wasn't enough to move stop to break even, obviously, and we lost this trade minus 1%. So we did lose that one, and we ended up breaking back to the upside, having an overall pullback. And this is where we got back in, and I'll show you in a little bit. This was a phenomenal trade. All right, next one. AUD CHF. This, I remember, did not hit. It still hasn't hit. And I don't think it's really valid at this point. I mean, it could be valid. I mean, it's definitely valid. It's just not going to hit for a while. The reason behind it is, higher time frame, lower low, overall pullback, lower high, lower low. We want an overall pullback back up into our last institutionally sponsored buying volume. Swept liquidity, created the lower low overall. So that would be that great retest or pullback higher time frame, 6,650. But on the lower time frame, we can see that we swept ascending liquidity in here. Boom, buy to sell, chopped around, made the lower low, broke the counter trend, pushed back up, swept this high just by a pip. You can see that wick. And then what did we do? Reaction, failed to make a higher high, lower low. So that turns into that demand to supply flip there. We created descending liquidity, but we never pulled back up into it. So a little disappointed, but nonetheless, it's okay because we move on and we're still ahead for the month. Continuing, GBP CAD. So remember, that was the 3-hour time frame buy to sell. We talked about those two levels. We had the first entry. Our secondary entry was right in here. Now I'm going to go over why this one was valid. So on a lower time frame, we can see this is the 3-hour buy to sell. It's the 1 hour, but the 3 hour we had that clear 1 candle buy to sell, right? And that entered in from our original sell position. We pushed back up, but we did not come into it. We made a lower low again. So going down to a lower time frame, what did we see? Well, we swept the prior high and then broke the counter trend. So sweeping liquidity, and then the counter trend was right in here. Boom, failed to generate a higher high, lower low, and we closed below structures, sweeping liquidity. So just to continue with lower time frame structure, that could have easily been a trade that we took just to continue, right? It could have easily done, it could have easily done something like that. And then maybe after the third drive, it could have pulled back higher time frame and then shorted off. Because think about it, guys. What is a lower time frame trend? A lower time frame trend is a higher time frame expansion. What is this lower time frame trend to the upside? It's not a bullish run. It's just a higher time frame retracement for another lower low because we're overall lower low, lower high, lower low. We're bearish, right? So I was thinking we would just continue with the overall trend because we never pushed up into this level, which we did. We had a beautiful entry. We had a massive reaction, stops to break even, partials taken about halfway through. So I made half of this position. I took 50% off. So 3.2 divided by 2 was that, like 1.6. So 1.6% on this trade. And then we came up and hit break even. But nonetheless, it still was good money. You can see that was obviously the supply zone or the demand zone that failed, and we created supply. And we swept liquidity in the process into that. We pushed back to the downside, but decided that now we're going to have the overall pullback. You never know when it's going to happen, guys. Just because we have a level here doesn't mean we're going to come up into it right away. We could have easily reacted here, which we did. We just didn't make a lower low. It could have. It could have made, 1 drive, 2 drive, 3 drive, and then the pullback. It could have easily done that. But in this case, we had 2 drives and then the pullback. And you never would have known that. You just have to go based upon what you see. So still beautiful entry, but nonetheless, we did make some money. But then we finally came up into our original zone anyway, so not too mad about that. Let's see, Euro CAD. So this was the analysis. Talked about it in yesterday's video. So I guess it was this daily market breakdown video. I actually posted this one to the free channel as well. So you probably have seen this one. Obviously, this was, if you can see here, this was CAD Swiss franc. I talked about that one. But anyways, where am I going? Euro CAD. Okay, 15-minute time frame, Euro CAD. So I believe this was down here before we had the entry for the original one. This was, again, just very similar to GBP CAD, right? We came up into our level, creating the huge buy to sell, and then just continued with lower time frame structure. So I thought it was going to be like that. And we could have easily done that. We could have made a million more lows and then finally come back up to sweep liquidity and have the overall pullback before another lower low. We could do that. But in this case, obviously we came up into my level and stopped, failed to make a lower low, and then a higher high, which is probably why at that point you could have turned around and then bought it in there. That demand. Could have done that. I just didn't. Okay, so what was the analysis? So, obviously higher time frame we mitigated. Now we're counter trend bearish now. What do I mean by counter trend bearish and higher time frame bearish? Higher time frame bearish, lower low, lower high, searching for a lower low. Counter trend bearish is this. We're counter trend bullish, now counter trend bearish. So not only higher time frame bearish, but lower time frame bearish as well. So that's just more confluence. right? Because higher and lower time frames are in conjunction with one another at that point. So lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, counter trend in here, high, low, high, low, high. Failed to make the higher high, lower low. This was just an easy trade. I just didn't work out. Had a little bit of profit, came back down, sub liquidity, and pushed right back to the upside. So I did take a little bit of partials off the table here. I remember this, but I left some partials off, and I didn't move stop to break even because we never really broke any structure. So did take some partials, but left the rest to right. So I think I just broke even on this altogether. My losses equaled my wins on this one. This was talked about by Aiden, USD Swiss franc, on the Smart Money Sundays video. The Smart Money Sundays videos are supposed to be analysis, but they're also trades in which you guys can take. So definitely take advantage of them if we talk about them. But obviously, we keep updates in the VIP, so some of them can turn invalid. You just have to keep up with them yourself if you're not a part of VIP. USD Swiss franc. Okay, I think it was on the hourly. We were right in here. Perfect. So this one, it was just so unfortunate how we didn't come up and sweep the high. We ended up making a lower high and rolling over, but oh well, it happens sometimes. We took some partials, moved to break even anyways as well. So let's see. High, low, high, low, high, low, failed to make a higher high, right? Just equal highs. Then we started to pull back down. So this was just a liquidity run, simply put. Equal lows were run, equal highs we had. Demand and imbalance we had. Entry, beautiful entry, pushed to the upside, sweep the equal highs, but just missed our take profit. But we moved stop to break even, took some partials, so still wasn't a bad trade. But just wanted to share that with you. Longs on EA, beautiful trade on Euro AUD, and this was the analysis before looking at buys from around 1.467. I believe that's what the price was, if I remember from my MT5 account. Any of you guys have both MT4 and MT5? I have an MT4 account as well, and I have multiple prop firm accounts and an MT5. I don't know why I have so many, but I'm starting not to like MT4 anymore. Kind of trash. Where am I going? Totally lost my train of thought. Going on a tangent. Oh, that's right. Euro AUD. Okay, perfect. So this was the analysis. Yeah, 467. Yeah, that's right. I remember that. So, anyways, we just to bring up to speed, we are counter trend bullish, right? We're making higher highs, higher lows, lower time frame. What we're doing here, swept liquidity, sell to buy, mitigate this demand, push up, break counter trend, pull back. We talked about that. Remember, we bought it, or excuse me, that was Euro NZD. It looks the exact same anyways because they're correlated. I just thought it was the same. But anyways, you can just see the concept. You could have bought it there as well. That was the institutionally sponsored candle, sweeping liquidity coming into this demand. Broke the counter trends to the upside, boom, came back down, mitigated imbalance was right there because this was straight buying volume. Because we come back down, mitigate that imbalance, push back to the upside, and then we do something lower time frame. I forget what it was. There we go, lower time frame. So we had that sell to buy, failed to make the lower low, higher high. This excess demand could have had a beautiful entry there. Then we had a higher high again, pushed back down, creating our last sell to buy before the expansion again, creating that demand. Overall demand, that mitigates this demand. So it's just finding the mitigation trend, guys, and finding what's actually valid. And it makes trading so much easier. So what do? We fail to come into it, right? We create liquidity, relatively equal lows, 1, 2, 3 touches. People are probably buying off that trend line lower time frame. So anyways, we make a higher high, we pull all the way back down into our demand, filling up some imbalance in your lower time frame, getting a beautiful entry, closed here on Friday, and look at what I said. I said, let's see, okay, maybe this was another trade then. Because, okay, I think it's down in here. I think it's, we'll get to it, and I'll remember when I see it. But essentially what I said was, we talked about this on Saturday's live session, and I said that since we closed here into our demand zone upon Friday close, we need to see an immediate push back up to the upside on Sunday open. There's no need to come any lower than this level because we've already mitigated it. If it's valid, we don't need to come any lower. So that's exactly what happened. We opened, we filled the gap just essentially right in here, and then we continued up. So followed what I was looking for. But anyways, push back up to the upside, 1.49. So in this picture, I know this says 1.483. But we can see here at that time, price was right in here. So 1.483 was obviously our take profit if price pulled back, but the fact that we made a higher high here and then started to pull back, I adjusted my take profit to the institutional like psychological level 1.49 right above the high. All right, so here 1 to 5.11 risk to reward. Euro NZD, this one, yeah, so this one very similar. And this was just a play on of our original entry. So remember we had our original entry from that 30-minute time frame demand zone. So beautiful entry. We had the reaction, and then we had the fill of the imbalance and the demand zone here. We swept equal lows. So that created this sell to buy, made a higher high pullback. Could have had an entry there. Beautiful trade. But then what did we do here? Well, we created another area of demand, and we expanded very strongly. Had a little bit of a retracement. See, a little bit of a retracement, but didn't fill and mitigate this level. So when we created a higher high again, I said these two levels would be valid if we get our pullbacks back down into them. So either this lower time frame level of demand or the full imbalance fill and this demand in here. But unfortunately, we never got that pullback. You can see we just continued long. We just kept going and going. So no trade there. Let's keep moving. Tonga has some in there, daily market. Bias change on CAD Swiss franc. So this was our analysis on CAD Swiss franc. So higher time frame. Let's look at this. Zoom out. There we go. So higher time frame, we had relatively equal lows. Once this loads, I'll show you. Sorry. Relatively equal lows here. We have a lower time frame level of demand in here. Okay. So we wanted to come down into that, which we finally did today, but it looks like we're going to come lower because we never got the reaction that we needed. So that can be deleted, really. But anyways, counter trend, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. We wanted to go sweep that liquidity, higher time frame, and come into that demand. So we were still very much bearish. So we can see here, and this was the CAD Swiss franc buys that we had. We finally finished with the buys. 0.75 was the take profit, pretty much to the T before we rolled over. But we can see the distribution that occurred. Distribution. We pushed back down, reacted off this demand, failed to make a higher high and lower low, slight pullback, and that's where we started the downtrend. So I wanted that pullback back up into supply to mitigate to then fall again because we broke in structure, right? So that was the analysis. We just never got into it, never pulled back. All right, next trade. That was just higher time frame view, the same thing. Gold. This was okay. So this is interesting. I tried to trade gold here one time. So the first time I've ever traded gold in like 2 years. And when I say I don't trade gold, and people keep asking me to trade gold and look at gold on the live sessions, it really irks me because I don't know gold enough to give you value. So why would I try to give you value when it's not going to be good value? I don't know how gold moves. So I just don't trade it. But, I guess I was enticed because it was one of my members who sent this out as a piece of analysis. And it really was a good piece of analysis. It really was. Because we had equal highs here. Boom, equal highs here that were run with the imbalance fill, right? Dollar is very strong. We're in a higher time frame downtrend. We had relatively equal lows to come claim. And we swept liquidity. Buy to sell, break of structure. I figured, okay, we'll pull back and then we can just go short. Well, gold just moves ridiculous and came up, hit my stop loss. That was a loss. Don't really care for gold. I probably won't trade it again. So, that's why I say, I don't trade gold. I don't trade commodities. I don't trade cryptos. I stick to Forex because I know Forex. I know how Forex pairs move. I'm good at Forex. I'm not good at trading anything else because I just don't know. I could become good at it if I learned it. I just don't want to. I want to specialize. People who specialize, that's when people get paid the big bucks, right? Right? You're not just a general doctor, right? If you're a osteopathic or osteo whatever surgeon, you're specializing in that field. You're probably going to be making more because you're specializing. Same thing with trading. I'm specializing in Forex. I don't trade futures, stocks, indices, commodities, cryptos. I don't trade all that stuff because it's just too much to learn to try to trade everything. Specialize, learn a few pairs, become masters of those pairs, know exactly their movements and how they go, and you're going to do a lot better. You don't need to trade a million pairs. You don't. A few are doing just fine. AUD CAD, for example, they have like 5 or 6 trades in here. All right, let's keep going. This is a really good video. Cycle of a Forex Trader. This is a really good video. Go check it out. It's on my YouTube. Okay, let's continue. NZD CAD. Okay, so this was a piece of analysis here. NZD CAD, I believe it was. Let me see which one this is. 15-minute sending by sell. Yeah, it was right here. Okay, so this was a phenomenal trade. It didn't work out, and that's okay sometimes. Now we can see here that when we had our original entry, right, we sold it here. Remember, we had the fake out, and then we made a lower low. That's why I switched my bias and we sold it here. Boom. I don't know why it's like that. It should be up here. So lower low was formed, lower high, we got that entry, and then the counter trend, boom, 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 failed to make a higher high, lower low, mitigation, lower time frame supply, lower low. Okay, so now we need to be pulling back up into supply. So we ran descending liquidity, 1, 2, 3 touches, have equal lows here and equal lows there. So it was a beautiful opportunity, had a huge buy to sell, broke the structure. We can see with the counter trend, boom, 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 failed to make the higher high, lower low. Phenomenal supply level. All the confluences in the world just didn't work out. I mean, we had a great trade. I mean, the stop loss to break even on this, I didn't lose this one. I'm just mad that I didn't win this one because it was such a great trade. You know, because why? Because we attacked sell side liquidity. Boom, attack sell side liquidity of the prior structure, move stop to break even, take some partials. Okay, that's just standard. But you know, I was quite upset because it was such a great trade, had all the confluences in the world. But hey, you know, sometimes that happens and we rally back up to the upside. But that's when we just keep looking at the market and see what it does. It doesn't mean to chase the trade and try to continue to enter shorts because you want shorts to happen. If buys need to occur, right? If the structure shifts, just like we had in here, we had this structure shift. We were originally looking to buy. We bought in here, had a beautiful entry. Bought in here, had a little bit of a reaction, railroaded to the downside. Now we shift our bias based upon liquidity runs to the upside, having the overall pullback being finished, and now we made the lower low. So now we switch to shorts, and boom, now we can take care of those losses. Easy, and we win more than we lose too. So not only take care of the losses, but win, and then net profit. Take care of those losses and more. So you get what I mean. So didn't lose on that trade. What's the next one? AUD CAD. I think it was very similar. I think it was almost the exact same time as NZD CAD. It was, boom, boom. Yeah, it was the exact same time. So when we had our 5th entry here in good profit, we came back up, kind of filled in balance a little bit, made a move to the downside, pull back, and then made the lower low. So we wanted to pull back up into it, had a very nice reaction, stopped sort of above the high here, or actually right above this high here, and I think it just got run. It should have been up here. I don't know why I put it there. Yeah, I think it should have been there. I'll have to go back and check my MT4 and see why I put my stop. But anyways, it should have been there. But you know, it doesn't matter. You know, it came down, it had the reaction, and then we had the retracement, and it hit our stop loss. So that one was a loser. And that was just the results of gold. Updated everyone with that. See, I'm transparent, guys. I'll show you my losses. I'll tell you guys when I lose. Right? I just did. USD CAD. Aiden sent this one out. US dollar, Canadian dollar, 1 hour time frame on, let's see, September 9th. Let's go check that one out. USD CAD, 1 hour time frame, September 9th. I think it was in here. I think because we shifted structure, we wanted the overall retracement. That's what it was. Had the overall retracement, perfect wick entry short, perfect wick entry long. And we'll talk about this one later. But anyways, what I think he was looking at was the fact that we swept liquidity, buy to sell. This was London session that particular day, and we had the rollover in New York session to the downside. So we wanted that retracement back up, mitigation the following day. Look at this. This is why time and price is so important. Buy London session, take liquidity, New York session, roll over the rest of the day. Come back up, London session, create liquidity, buy New York session, continue for the rest of the day. It's the sessions that do you well. You have to trade during the right time of day, guys. Right? You can't just trade during any time of the day. You think you want to trade USD CAD during Asian session? I don't think so. Anyways, take profit was 3024. I think that's where he had it. Yeah, 3024. Beautiful 1 to 2. Not the best risk reward in the world, but still it's pretty good. Next, NZD CAD. See, this one was, I don't know why he posted this one as I posted it. So we already went over NZD CAD. I guess he posted the same piece of analysis. Anyways, rate entries on AUD CAD didn't go too smoothly. It was a re-entry on the lower time frame in here because what we had was the reaction from that level. We pushed up, failed to make a higher high, lower low. So I figured out we were going to do that, but we ended up not. We rolled over to the upside. GBP USD. This one, let's check it out. This one. I remember I told everyone, I'm like, guys, this is a counter trend trade. Be very careful because we hadn't hit our level yet. I wanted price to come up into this huge buy to sell that was still unmitigated at 1.18. This is just intra-structure, meaning this is the real structure. This is the high that created this low here. This is just intermediate structure. So I didn't know why we reacted from where we did, but we did. So when we were pulling back, I figured, okay, well, we're going to have a pullback down into our demand levels to go long. The reason why I like these levels is because, one, this is our last point of return on mitigated demand, but also because in here, this was our Asian range. We had the fake out of the buys, entice breakout traders long, push down, take their stops, breakout traders, short. We fake them out short. We push back up and then made a higher high. So this becomes our demand. So that's why we had that reaction from where we did. We just didn't see any follow through because the dollar was very strong. So what we can see here is we pushed down into it, pushed up, pushed back down, a little bit of drawdown, and then we made a move to the upside, breaking counter trend structure, and I moved stop to break even, took some partials. And then we came all the way back down. We'll talk about this trade in a little bit. We came back down, had an entry, got a nice wick entry, but rolled over, so did lose that one. Broke even and made some money on this one, but lost this one. Half risk here and half risk here. So didn't lose too much really at all. Okay, continuing USD, Euro Swiss franc. This one discussed on Saturday's live session. So I give some of these out on the live sessions as well, guys. Let's go to EUR CHF. Boom. Perfect entry. So originally, we had an overall lower low, lower high. Now we're aiming for a lower low, right? Higher time frame, that's the structure. Lower time frame, we can see that we broke the counter trend structure. So boom, right there, swept liquidity, swept these equal highs, came into supply, filled in balance, and then made a lower low. We broke the structure. So what I want to see, or what I wanted to see, was we can see high, low, failed to make a higher high, lower low. So that flips to supply. Notice how I like to trade that type of setup, guys, and it works. It really does. It's just, I think, and there was no telling. We could have easily pulled up into that level. And just because this was a clear sponsor candle, buy to sell, doesn't mean that, yes, it was a great entry. You could have definitely entered there. But if it came up into here, I wouldn't have been surprised. It just so happened that it didn't. That's why Forex is never like, oh, well, what do you do when this happens? What does it look like how do you know if it's going to react off the 4-hour buy to sell versus this 1-hour supply? You don't. You really, truly don't, guys. You don't, which is why you place 2 entries. In this case, I didn't place this one. I could have, but I really thought we were going to push up into here. It could have easily done that. Easily could have done that. And that's probably what it should have done, but it just didn't. So we have to react from it. So anyways, we mitigate our last buy to sell, make a lower low, act as liquidity right in here, come back up, fill that imbalance, mitigate the supply, reaction. Beautiful trade. So that was the trade that we sent to our to everyone on the live session that Saturday, and we can see that we just missed take profit, but we're rolling over from our other entry, which I'll talk about in a little bit. 0.95 psychological level. We already swept these lows. I'm just looking to come lower. GBP NZD, beautiful trade from GN the past week. We had 2 entries on GN, and I'll talk about this one in a little bit. But this was the first entry. So I talked about this a couple times. Higher time frame, we're so very much bearish. Low, high, low, looking for a pullback for another lower low, right? Just structure. So where do we want to pull back into? Well, when we get the pullback, this was our huge sponsor candle. Buy to sell, swept equal highs, came up into this area of supply, and swept these equal highs, pushing up into this supply that swept these highs in there. So just following the mitigation train, knowing your levels, that's the most important thing. So knowing that 1.94 psychological level is that area of interest where we want to be shorting from, we can look to potentially take a buy trade if we get the confluence to do so. In here, we're still making lower lows and lower highs. Lower low, lower high. Could have easily made a lower low, but we stopped. We ended up stopping and hitting this 1 hour demand level and then breaking counter trend structure to the upside. So now we can be looking for overall pullbacks to long. We don't because we know that we think we should come up into there to short doesn't mean it's going to go into there, right? It could come into here later. It could never come up into here. But if it does, that's our confluence to be looking for shorts. Doesn't mean to just place a random buy thinking you're going to come up into there. What if it doesn't? Well, then you lose the trade because you didn't know what in the world you were doing. So we have to take each trade and trade it individually. Equal lows. Retail trader support, 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. Sold into it, swept liquidity, enticed the breakout traders below support, right? Boom, nope, right back to the upside, take their stop losses. Another one, sell to buy, or not sell to buy, but break and retest going short from the support. Retail's in here, nope, right back to the upside, take their stop losses. Okay, so retail loses 3 times. They lose when they're buying upon the support, they're losing when they're selling below the breakout, and they're selling when we break and retest, but price always comes higher and retail loses yet again. So my entry was simply upon the break of the counter trend structure, pulled back into where they originally broke and retest. I just retested their retest essentially. So that was a really good trade. Stop loss was below here. This is where we really started the trend back to the upside. I'm not going to get into that. But anyways, that was a beautiful trade, 102 pip stop. But you're like, 102 pip stop? Yeah, because my take profits 448 pips, which in all reality on GBP NZD isn't that much, which is why it's a 1 to 4.4 risk to reward. So it's still a good trade. That's why I don't care about pips, guys. Then we made a higher high, and I'll talk about this trade later. NZD USD. This is a great hedge position. I said NZD USD hedging positions. When did I say that? I said that prior, or right before market opened, or that prior Friday. I was like, okay, well, the fact that, well, first and foremost, we need to understand what's going on in here first. Really, really fast. This was Asian session. Broke out, fake out, right? Took their stops above the high. Enticed the breakout longs now. Take their stops below the low. So it's a huge buy to sell. That was our original position. I think I'll talk about that later. Actually, maybe not. I didn't mark it up. I don't know why I didn't. Oh, because it happened in August. That's why. Okay. See, I need to go do an audit of my August trades as well. Anyways, I was like, where in the world was that? Anyways, okay. So that was our first entry. Counter trend, high, low, failed to make a higher high, lower low. That was our second entry. Okay. That was August 30th. That was 1 day before September. So technically 2 trades I could have talked about that really hit overall take profit, but I won't count them as a part of my September profit because, well, this is August. But anyways, you can see the mitigation from the last supply zone, creating equal highs before. Take the equal highs, buy, sell, sweeping liquidity. 15-minute time frame structure. Okay, so counter trend, high, low, failed to make a higher high, lower low. We cleared the prior low. So this becomes our supply. And we never pulled back up into it. This never got up into it, which is why, what is it? Liquidity. Boom. So when we start to fall, don't have FOMO. This is when people have FOMO. It misses their entry by a few pips, and then it moves away. Okay, great. We're patient. Wait for the retracement back up, because what is it going to be? Liquidity run mitigation. All right? I think you guys are getting it. You guys are getting the hang of it, right? You know how we roll. But anyways, so we come back up. We make an overall lower low. We push up. We fail to make a lower low, and we make a higher high. But we didn't come into this level yet. We actually created equal highs in here, right? So liquidity. So I said, if we get a pullback, because we closed here on Friday, if we get a pullback into the most recent swing point, we can counter trend buy this swing point up until our overall sell zone because we didn't come up into it here. If we came up into it, then I would have sold it and I wouldn't have bought it because then we would have shifted structure to the downside, right? Which we finally did when we actually came into it, right? That's why when we came into it, we're not looking for continuations off of structure. That would be dumb because we already came into objective. So now we're looking for the rollover. So you got to understand the higher lower time frame structure, guys. Anyways, we bought it. Very good trade. Only a 1 to 1.67. Wasn't the best risk to reward in the world at all. I hated myself for taking it. I shouldn't have taken it because it didn't meet my rules. But, you know, You know, sometimes I make mistakes too. Okay, so remember a couple minutes ago, I was like, where did I say this? I was looking for the trade and I couldn't find it. This is what I was looking for. Looking for the market to open and immediately push higher, as stated on the live, because it had already entered into the POI from Friday's close. Remember we talked about this. Remember I said that we broke structure and we pulled back into our demand level. So I was thinking, okay, immediately we should go long. I was looking at Euro AUD. It was actually GBP AUD. So that's where the confusion was earlier. Okay, so let's go to GBP AUD. Let's zoom out. So our original entry was here. And I'm going to show you what fractal markets look like. But first, I want to zoom out and show you what the structure looks like. Structure bearish. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, looking for an overall pullback for a lower high to look for another lower low, right? Which is why we're trying to buy it. But we can't just buy it because we're overall bearish. We have to have confluence. And we did when we broke counter-trend structure, which gave us the confluence. But I'll talk about that in a minute. Once we finally broke the counter-trend structure, our targets were our previous supply zone, just pulling back into structure. 1.7350 psychological level. This is supply that came into this supply here, just following the mitigation trade, as you can see, right? This supply was mitigated with this. This pulled up. I was hoping that would come up into that supply, but it didn't. It rolled over. Liquidity. Boom. Run the liquidity. Fill supply. New supply. Come back up. Unmitigated supply. This is where we need to push up into most likely. 7,350. So what happened in here was we had accumulation lower time frame and higher time frame. We accumulated. And then we broke the counter trend structure. So we're onloading our positions or offloading the shorts, right? So the institutions are onloading their buys, offloading their short positions. Accumulation, we spring to the upside, breaking counter trend. This was our last selling volume that failed to generate a lower low. Because if we were to continue with the shorts, we would have made a lower low. Well, we didn't. We stopped and made a higher high. So this becomes our demand. Stops below the overall low. Okay, overall low there. 98 pip stop loss. What in the world? No, because it's a 1 to 3.88, almost a 1 to 4. Still a very good risk reward. Descending liquidity. 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, 4 touches. How many people are selling with this trend line? A lot of people. So that gives us the conviction to long to go and attack that liquidity, which we did. So beautiful trade. And like I said, remember we said we closed within this demand zone. So we really should immediately open price on Sunday and push to the upside. And that's exactly what we did. We actually came down this wick right in here, swept these equal lows, and actually filled the gap. That's where we got the gap fill, and then boom, right back to the upside. Okay, so we're in good profit on this at the moment, holding until 1.7350, right up there. Euro CAD. So I talked about this one, how it just missed our stop, and then we lucked out really well, and it was a good trade. Yep, so we just missed our stop here, right? Just by a few pips, as we can see. Boom, boom, boom. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Came back down, pushed back up, failed to generate a higher high, lower low, and this is where we had our secondary entry, which was in profit as well. Both of them moved to break even, and I think I'll go over the second one here in a little bit, but you can see those two trades. We finally got that overall move to the upside. Remember we sold it in here, and we had to move stop to break even, but we ended up, not losing money. We pushed back to the upside. Now we had the overall pullback, which I thought then we could short off and make the overall lower low again because we're higher time frame bearish. But finally, we finally actually shifted structure after being bearish since June of this year. We're finally breaking structure, as we can see, to the upside. This is where we probably want to come back up into higher time frame structure now for a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. See, lower and higher time frame structure are, you have to understand all of it. So you can see that we had that entry, had a little bit of drawdown, but still maintained it and continued in profit. Once we had this break here, because we made a low, we failed to make a higher high and then another lower low in here with the news event that occurred during this day. So moved my stop to break even actually on both of these trades and took some partial. So actually made some money, but ended up coming back up to the upside. Could have been an awesome trade, but oh well. Yeah, we move on. Going back to GBP AUD really, really quickly, I forgot to tell you about the fractal markets. So remember how we had this accumulation? Let me go to bar replay here. And I'm going to go down to like the 2-minute time frame. I want you guys to tell me what this is. What is this? It's accumulation, right? It's accumulation. Boom, boom, break, retest, demand, long. Could have done that. Now, let's zoom back out. What's going on here? Accumulation higher time frame. Boom, boom, boom. Breakout, retest, where we originally retested. Look at that fractal market. It's the same thing. You're zooming in and zooming out. It's the same thing over and over again. So let's zoom back out to a higher time frame. And what is this? Let me get rid of our replay now. What's this? Accumulation. Boom, boom, boom. Breakout. Break structure. Pull back into where we broke out here, right? That we broke out here. That's where we mitigated where we broke out on the 2-minute, and then we mitigated this demand where we broke out on like the 10 or 15-minute, and that's where we broke out of here. We pulled back into that level. You just see it's kind of interesting how that works. It's very, very fractal. It's really cool. Anyways, let's continue. Almost done, guys. I think we're very almost done. Euro AUD had that beautiful entry. We talked about that from that prior Sunday. That market open, remember? And we had the immediate push to the upside. Let's see. We talked about GBP CAD here, right? We had the descending liquidity. We came up into that supply zone that failed to make a higher high in the lower low. We talked about that earlier. So that was really good. Euro CAD in profit. That was just the update. That was a re-entry on Euro CAD I talked about. And then this is NZD USD. Okay, so finally, NZD USD, we finally get back up into our level. So remember, we bought it and we finally hit that level. 15-minute, remember we had that 15-minute supply I talked about earlier. All right, beautiful reaction. The news came out, I think it was like CPI news, and it pushed price all the way to the downside. But people are like, well, what should I do? There's a news event coming out. Should I close the trade? No, because the news is used as an excuse to move price in the direction it was always meant to go. If there was no news, price would have fallen from this level, but probably a lot slower. But because there was news, they used that as the catalyst or as the excuse to create an influx of volatility into the market. So they're blaming it on, oh, the news did it. No, they really did it. They just used the news as an excuse to do it, right? If price wasn't going to mitigate, if this was not a valid level, the news probably would have pushed it higher. But because it was, it went short. And we knew that going into it. We had the analysis. So you can't say, oh, well, the news just so happened to push down. The news had so much strength exactly from that mitigation point. Exactly from it. Just literally proves my point about fundamentals, how it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. So huge profit. We're looking at selling all the way down for a 1 to 11, still holding this trade at about a 1 to 7. So up in a really good profit right now, down to 5,750. The reason for that is we're higher time frame bearish, and this huge sell to buy that came into, that actually swept liquidity, that came into where we broke structure back in, where we accumulated and broke structure back in 2009, filled an imbalance to the T actually. We created, when we sold to buy from it, this imbalance here. So we had the major sell-off, the imbalance fill right there to the T in that zone, which I just showed you. Wick there, wick here, straight bullish, volume. There's no bearish volume. This acts as liquidity, right? Because we didn't fill it immediately. So all this acts as liquidity to come and run later. Remember, we see it across the board here. So 5,750 is our overall target. We will be hitting that probably within the next few weeks, most likely. We did make a lower low. Let me just go to the 4-hour. Lower low, lower high, lower low. So we could have a pullback before going short again. But overall, 5,750 is our target. Okay. Let's see. Let's continue. USD CAD. Talked about Smart Money Sundays. Boom, from our level. Remember, we sold it in here, and then we bought it from 1.2960. So let's go to USD CAD. And I'll talk about this blue box here in a minute, but we came into this level. It was where we swept liquidity, sell to buy, came into that demand, filled the imbalance, and then this sell to buy on a lower time frame swept ascending liquidity coming into the demand, in which on a lower time frame we swept liquidity from coming into that one, right? So that's where we broke the counter structure, pulled back. Guess what we didn't do? We didn't mitigate, so that's where we're going to come next. So we sweep all this liquidity in here, come down into it, news event, News event, news event, news event. Perfect mitigation of the level. See, the news is pricing in this movement. The news knows that it's going to go long from 1.2960 because it was always meant to do so. So they price it in. They come close to it so that when news is released, boom, they can immediately push it up. And that's exactly what happened. And we are targeting 1.35, which is a higher time frame level of supply, holding a runner to 1.3850, which is our really higher time frame supply up there. And we're going to go up and hit it. I mean, that's where we're headed next. That's the objective. We have equal highs in here as well. Drawing liquidity. See, when you've been doing this for over 5 years, you can see these things, and it's become so much easier. That's why just never give up, guys. Never give up. You will get it. It just takes time. I promise. You're not doing anything wrong per se. You just probably don't have as much experience, right? So get that experience, and you can easily do this stuff too. Currently up about 1 to 7.25. So very good trade there. Next one, NZD USD, same sort of deal, same exact thing, just on a different pair. So beautiful trade, NZD USD, the same exact analysis. Oh, wait, was that AUD USD? Oh, okay. I think I talked about AUD USD here, thinking it was NZD USD. Where was it? It was further up. Okay, wait, AUD, I'm getting confused. So this is AUD USD, okay? AUD USD, NZD USD is up there. Man, I'm getting my pairs confused. They're the same piece of analysis. So I'm just going to, I already went over AUD USD. It was the same thing, literally the same exact thing. All right, so we'll just continue. GBP CAD, all right, we already talked about that. That was the reaction that we had. Stops to break even upon that closure. Partials taken. Same with Euro CAD from that level there. Okay, so that was AUD USD, beautiful, from 691. I think I just reposted it there. 15-minute demand in a lower time frame, perfect mitigation, and now we're all the way down here. So very good. And I think he said AU, EU, or EA, ECAD, GA, GCAD, NU, UCAD, GN, and Euro CHF all in profit. What a freaking week. This is every single week, guys. You guys need to get involved. US 30, we missed our entry. I've already talked about US 30 so many times before in terms of analysis, so I'm not going to really go over it. Really, essentially, it's higher time frame distribution, liquidity run, buy to sell, equal highs, pull back up into that sponsored move, broke counter trend structure. Demand zone was in here, failed to create a higher high, lower low. We're just following the overall trend of the market, low, high, and just introducing liquidity concepts when we get into these extremities. So that's really it, guys. I mean, it does take a lot of practice, but essentially that's what it is. If you can understand structure, you can understand supply and demand and institutional concepts, liquidity, time and price, imbalance, supply and demand flips, law of effort. If you can understand that and put it all together, that's essentially what you're just doing over and over and over again. So I know it may look easy, and it really is easy once you get to know it, but you got to learn it first. You got to invest in your education, or else you're just going to go through the same cycle of not understanding what in the world you're doing. So you can see we just missed our entry. I was a little bit upset, but that's what we were looking to attack. The draw on liquidity, equal lows, coming into 29,600 that we didn't come into here. As you can see, we just missed it. The reason for that is that we're just retesting COVID highs. This is the COVID high, 2020 high before the huge meltdown, right? So we're just coming down to retest it. That's where we're going to be headed. So unfortunately, didn't get that trade. Oh well. GBP Swiss franc, this one, we did not get the entry on. This was a lower time frame trade. You can see here, had massive, huge buy to sell, sweeping equal highs and descending liquidity. Lower low was formed, we're overall bearish. Wanted that pullback to mitigate, we just didn't do that. And then we just continued. So, it is what it is, and we move on. USD CAD, talked about that. EUR CHF, so we had an additional level on EUR CHF. Remember, we had our original entry right here that we're in good profit on. Well, I said that once we created a lower low, we pulled back lower high, lower low again. There was the lower time frame 15-minute supply zone. Remember, we reacted from our level, failed to create a higher high, lower low. So when we made the lower low, I'm like, okay, we can pull back up into that supply right there. Boom, boom, boom. So that could have been a beautiful trade. We just didn't get the pullback enough, and we fell. And then this became our last buy to sell, which created the lower low. So this one we also had as supply. So I had two levels there, boom and boom. So half risk on that a piece because I'm treating it as one trade. So currently, right now, I had a little bit of drawdown, but we're in profit now. We're up a little bit over 1%, so about a 0.5% because we're using half risk here and half risk here. So you guys, in total, after I do all the calculations, it came out to about 59.6%. Most of it came with NZD USD, that huge trade, Euro AUD, Euro NZD, was AUD USD, USD CAD. I mean, there are so many trades that we took, but the greatest part about it is that I use risk management. You can make a boatload of return still using risk management. You do not have to over leverage, which many people try to do, and it's ridiculous. You don't need to do that. All right, so that was EUR CHF, a good profit at the moment. Potential re-entry I'm seeing now. Counter trend, boom, 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 boom. Failed to make a higher high, lower low. This could be a potential entry. We'll see. Could see something like that. But who knows? I'll have to do more analysis later on it. That's just a very broad view of it. The market, NZD JPY. Okay, so these are more recent. This was last week. NJ, NCAD, actually NCAD did hit and ACAD did hit. Okay, I'll go over those two. NZD JPY. I guess I can talk about it. Oops. Here we go. Because I remember not a lot of them from last week hit. A few of them did. This was our higher time frame objective level. We pushed up into it, and that's why we failed to make a higher high and we made the lower low. We shifted structure. So I wanted the pullbacks up into supply. We just haven't done it yet. So we move on. NZD CAD. This was the entry. This was the before, and now we'll take a look at the after. Beautiful trade. Phenomenal trade. Absolutely great. So okay, so all this occurred, obviously from our prior trades or most recent supply, we came up into that, had that sell, right? And then we failed to make the higher high and the lower low was formed. So just pulling back up to fill in balance and come up into that last institutionally sponsored buying volume, that supply level. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Couldn't have asked for a better wick entry and made the lower low. So good trade, targeting 7-8 psychological level and overall objective. So that was NZD CAD. AUD CAD is very similar, but I think AUD CAD is pushing to the upside. Yeah, AUD CAD is. We're in a little bit of drawdown here, but that's okay. It happens sometimes. We had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lost on that one, and then a little drawdown on this one. Actually, no, we did not lose on. Yeah, we did. We lost on those. Okay, cool. But still, nonetheless, I'm still up so much more than the losses could have ever come to. So I don't even care if I lose this one. If we get the overall pullback, then we can see here, higher time frame, that's, what we'll do. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower, not necessarily a lower low, but we may have an overall pullback and short off, and this just may be like 1, 2, 3 legs for that overall lower low. So really we should come lower, but right now it's pretty bullish, but hey, you never know. We could easily tank right now. We'll see. AUD NZD, it never came to our levels. I can just show you just for transparency. Never came to our levels here. We had a couple levels. Remember we were selling in here. We stopped, broke the counter trend. We were looking for a retest of demand. Or if we come lower into our higher time frame demand, I'm still holding shorts from 1.0990 up into 1.143. So holding positions there, but that was like August. But anyways, yep, no trade on this so far in terms of re-entries. GBP USD. So that was from a while ago. This one was sort of that complement to our other GBP USD position. I think that was in here. 15-minute time frame. Had the reaction from the level. Remember we mentioned this level, we had the reaction from it. Failed to make the lower low and a higher high. So this demand in here reacted, but just ended up moving back to the downside. So, oh well. On that one, GBP CAD, we already went over this. That was a 3-hour buy sell. I just went over that update. CAD JPY, haven't gotten an entry here. Again, I'll just show you. Got to be transparent with everyone, right? You can see here, haven't come up into it yet. This buy to sell, haven't come up into it yet. Created equal highs. 15-minute time frame was the perfect, sponsored move, buy to sell. But just show you 1 hour as a zoomed out version. They haven't come up into it yet. So we're just waiting. GBP AUD. So this is our re-entry on GBP AUD right in this demand zone. Boom. Demand zone. We have equal high, higher low, looking for that third drive up into the supply. In a little drawdown right now, I think we're accumulating. We may push down one more time, have one last run of the lows. Boom, boom. That would be awesome if we can get that maybe just deeper down into that wick. Because what is a wick? It's selling and buying at the same time, right? Especially when it's wick to the downside. Selling and buying at the same time. This was the sell to buy that swept these lows that came into this gap. So we could easily see that wick be mitigated. So that's why we could easily come down lower, a little bit lower. But overall, we're bullish, I think. GBP CAD, I think we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Adding to GBP NZD as well. So yeah, GBP NZD, where are we? Here we go. Very similar to GBP AUD, right? We had the reaction from our original level. We retested this retail trend line, 1 touch, 2, 3, 4, had that 5th touch reaction, and we broke through it. So that was our retest of their retest, right? That's why we win and they lose. So boom, right back to the upside, stops are below the influx of orders here that resulted in the pullback. That's why I was at that particular price. And then take profits at 1.94, which was that higher time frame, institutionally sponsored buy to sell, because we are overall bearish. Lower low, lower high, sponsored candle, unmitigated. Lower low, we got to pull back up into it eventually. We're finally coming up into it. So also, retail head and shoulders. Shoulder, head, shoulder, fake out, go long. Entice them to short below the neckline and take them and hit their stops. Okay, so that was that, in good profit at the moment on that trade. I think we're in 1.75, almost 2% profit there. So very good. GBP CAD, this is re-entries on GBP CAD. Let's see. GBP CAD's just kind of chilling right now. So the re-entry was the original buy to sell. We had the reaction and then the follow through to the downside. So I figured, okay, well, this mini level of supply that failed to create a higher high when we made a lower low, we could come up, sweep that liquidity, come up into that supply and fall. But we're just kind of chilling right now. It's Asian session, so I might get rid of it, to be honest. I might delete the entry. It's not having the best reaction. Continuing. This is EUR NZD. This is now invalid. I'll just show you guys just to prove that we didn't actually lose the trade. EUR NZD. It's right here. Didn't come into it. We already came into objective, so this is now invalid. This is EUR AUD. So this is what I'm looking for currently. It didn't hit yet. This is essentially the level. Remember, we had that trade from September 9th. We had the higher high, the higher low. We filled some imbalance and came into a demand zone in here. We can see, remember, with the wick, you go down to the 1 minute time frame, it's still a wick. So that means on the seconds time frame, there's a sell to buy. But that's why when we made a higher high, we came back down to that exact open of that wick and mitigated that. So in here on the lower time frame, there's a demand level, so we swept liquidity and we filled the gap there. That's why we reacted from where we did, and that's why we made our higher high. So just following the structure, intermediate demand level and imbalance. Just in case we don't have the deepest pullback, we could do something like that. But if we do, we can come back down into demand and this imbalance that formed and mitigate that. Okay, so 2 potential entries to go long. We can see look at that, retail head and shoulders and support consolidation, building liquidity before a potential huge sell to buy. That's what we're looking for. Okay. AUD CAD reentries already went over that one. NZD CAD, this is no longer valid because we're all the way down here now from our original entry in here, which I just showed you. NZD CAD. Remember, we immediately opened on Sunday and pushed down. He was originally wanting to see it off of a deeper retracement up into here, but now it's invalid because we made a lower low now. Very good trade there. Now let me see what am I up currently? 2.6. Okay, cool. Out of 5.5. Not too bad. Almost halfway there. Okay. Let's see. Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. We're waiting for. What is this? U.S. dollar, Japanese yen. We're waiting for. USD Swiss franc. We're waiting for. None of these have hit. This is the Update from NZD CAD that was sent out the other day. I'll just show you guys really quick. UJ, we're waiting, haven't hit it yet. USD CHF, where is it? There it is. USD CHF haven't hit these levels yet. CAD JPY on the higher time frame, Aiden had these two daily time frame levels. They were on the 12-hour. This demand and then this demand, right? We haven't come into that yet. We're still very much bullish. So just wanted to show transparency to show that, oh, I'm not skipping over it because it actually had stop loss. No, it just hasn't hit yet. But we're still looking for them. That was the update from NZD CAD. That was the update from GBP NZD in profit, update from GBP AUD. NZD Swiss franc, this one hasn't hit, but it's a really good piece of analysis that I'll go over really fast. So on the 15-minute time frame, we had a beautiful institutionally sponsored move. Higher time frame, we are bearish, right? But lower time frame, we also are bearish. Okay, so we're just playing off the lower time frame structure here. Lower low, pull back, lower high, lower low, equal lows, pull back into imbalance and supply. Had the reaction from it. Here is the Asian range. Asian range, again, fake out of the Asian range, entice sellers and breakout traders below the low. Nope, right back to the upside, take their stops, entice the buyers above the high, the equal highs from Asian session, right? Break out to the upside, nope, right back to the downside, create the institutionally sponsored buy volume to sell off. We create equal highs, liquidity prior to coming up and mitigating, and then we just completely fall and we didn't come back up. So hasn't hit yet, but since the fact that we created a lower low from this overall lower low, if we have an overall pullback, this is definitely still valid because it would just simply be low, high, low, high, low, high, low, right? Just structure, you know? So still looking for that. AUD NZD hasn't hit yet. Just quickly show you. Yeah, this was the level, hasn't hit yet, hasn't come down. Re-entry on GN. So yeah, GBP NZD today. This was today's setup. Where the heck is it? There it is. Right in here, 1 hour time frame. This should be up here. I don't know why it moves on me. But anyways, remember we had the reaction from that second level. So we're in one trade, two trades, and we wanted that third trade in here, right? We had the low, high, failed to make a lower low, higher high. So this acts as our demand. We wanted that pullback into it, but we didn't get the retracement. So it is still definitely valid because we made a higher high. So it would just be an overall higher low for another higher high. So we could definitely see that. But at this current time, it's not near the entry right now. Tom called out nice gold 130 pip, I think, running 130 pips. Very nice. This was this morning, I believe. Update on GBP NZD, update on NZD CAD, update on GBP AUD, Euro JPY I talked about. I'll go over that in a second. Euro GBP again, Euro JPY. Hold on, I'll go back to these. Okay, so we have, okay, so this is Euro CAD. This is Euro JPY re-entry. This is Euro CHF. This is Euro CAD. This is Euro JPY and Euro GBP. Okay, so I know the pairs. Let's just go all the way to them. So Euro JPY, right in here. Objective, higher time frame, which is why I have the box. I've had that for a while now. Higher high, higher low, higher high. Generate liquidity, failed to generate a higher high. We failed to do so. We rolled over and made the lower low. So that's exactly what we wanted to pull back up into, that flip from demand to supply. So this was our supply. Boom, boom. Perfect entry from this morning. Beautiful. I think that was right in here. Yep, right there. We talked about that for the past week. So boom, beautiful entry, swept ascending liquidity, huge buy to sell. Then the 15-minute, what did I say? I said could get a re-entry upon the break of the supply zone. Boom, right there, and then go short. Well, what did we do? We break, retest into that level, come up into the supply region, right? Because we had high, low, failed to make a higher high, lower low. So that was our supply. That's why we retested that level. So we had the initial entry here, quick entry, and then the break accounted structure. So it's a simple pullback and continuation short. So hoping for a follow through to the downside. That's what I hope to see. Euro GBP, I'll talk about that in a minute. And then Euro CAD, and I believe this was just the update on Euro CHF that I talked about, right? Remember we already went over that, Euro CHF. That was right in here. Right? Remember we had the entry, we were in a little bit of drawdown, but now we're in, should be down here. Now we're in a little bit of profit. That was just a re-entry. And then, let's see, and then that was EJ, just giving the update, and then ECAD again. So let me go over EG and ECAD, and I think that's it. We're at the bottom. Cool. that was all of the trades. So let's check out Euro GBP. So Euro GBP, and I said in the Discord, I said, may see a deeper counter trend pull back here in EG. I like the setup, but we are still overall bullish, so be careful. So essentially, we came into a higher time frame to the right, or to the left, and we distributed. Distribution schematic, boom, boom, counter trend, high, low, failed to make a higher high, lower low, pulled back, lower low. So this becomes our supply stops above this high here. So we're still in this trade, but it's not cooperating the best right now. But anyways, this is the supply that we pulled back into, and now we're looking for a lower low. Okay, so the reason for this is that one, we came into a prior supply zone to the left, but two, we also had divergence. Price was pushing up, volume was pushing down. Could be a good sign of a reversal. So it gave me confluence to enter shorts there upon the lower low, and I wanted to pull back into that supply. I came a little bit higher, but hopefully we can roll over. We'll see. And then the last one was Euro CAD, right? And obviously this one didn't hit either. This was the 20-minute time frame. And we can see here, this is a false flag. This is a flag, right? And we faked out of it, enticing sellers below this low. Also sweeping the liquidity of potential buyers from this trend line. One touch, two touch, three touch, four, sell to buy, continue with the overall structure. We're a higher time frame bullish now. We came back down, mitigated demand. So we did three things. We mitigated demand, we swept liquidity, and we enticed sellers below the trend line and below the flag formation, because that's what they're taught to do, break out of formation patterns, I guess. So what did we do? Sell to buy, reprice, fail to make a lower low, and we made a higher high. So that was that repricing event, that now new demand level. And we also have a little 45-minute imbalance right in here as well. So these two levels are definitely valid. But going back to the 20-minute, I want that retest. Counter trend was broken. Higher high was formed. I want the higher low either into here or into here for longs. All right, so that's what I'm looking for on EUR CAD. I just wanted to point out that that's what we called out, but it hasn't hit yet, and we called it out right there this morning. All right, guys, so that was definitely a long video. I hope you all learned some things, but more importantly, I hope that you follow people who will give you transparent results, who will actually go through all of their setups, show you the losers, show you the winners, and not just follow all of the $10,000, $100,000 profits that you see on IG that are definitely faked. You see all that stuff, completely fake. You know, some people do it, sure. I'm not saying they don't, but I feel like we are one of the only groups of people who provide transparent value in this industry. There are a lot of great traders out there. I have a lot of respect for them, but the majority of them, unfortunately, are scammers, are liars, just are not real traders, and they try to entice you to join their group through fake profits and fake analysis and fake everything. So we wanted to be different, to show you guys that we are the real deal. We want to work with you to really transform your trading into something that you can be proud of, something that you can quit your job in and go full time in and become a funded trader, most importantly. So I wanted to do the audit of September. We still have 10 days to go, but the grand total for everything, I calculated everything, and it came out to be about 59.6%. However, obviously we did take partials throughout. So in doing so, naturally the profit, declines because you're taking partials, you're lowering your volume, but you're still in the trade, right? So in doing so, I would probably say about net profit about anywhere between 40 and 45%. Still a phenomenal return nonetheless. So guys, I hope you learned something. I hope you took some value. If you're interested in learning more about this and becoming a six-figure funded trader and working with a real group to actually teach you the real way of trading, hop over to our website, www.aerialfxtrading.com, and book a free consultation with one of our traders to see if you qualify for our program and our exclusive mentorship, and to see if not only if we're the right fit for you, but if you're the right fit for us, because we only work with a specific group of people. We don't take everyone on board, people who are very serious, people who want to do this, and people who have the means to invest in their education. Then we are willing to work with you and can definitely work with you one-on-one, developing that personalized plan for you going forward so that you can reach your overall goals. All right, guys, so thank you very much for your time, and we will talk to you all later. Take care.